A top scorer in the university entrance exam? Not me, not anymore. The thought erupted in my mind like a wildfire, startling even myself. But then, an unprecedented sense of elation, a feeling of getting back at the whole world, washed over me. It was just like chugging a chilled can of Coke on a scorching July afternoon, skin-tinglingly cool, exhilarating to the point of shivering. Yes, I'm not doing it anymore. Let anyone who wants to, do it. In this life, even if God or God's Father descends from the heavens, they won't force me back into that exam room ever again. Milan, what are you spacing out for? The exam started 20 minutes ago, hurry up and write. The invigilator's voice, thick with a Sichuan Chongqing accent, pierced my ear like a needle. My whole body trembled. The gel pen in my hand clattered to the floor, slipping from my stiff fingers, its sound jarringly loud in the suffocating silence of the room. I looked up, my eyes fixed on the 4 characters exam discipline written in a flamboyant calligraphic style on the board. My gaze swept around, everyone else had their heads down like ostriches, scribbling away as if their lives depended on it. The scratching of pens on paper, click by click, sounded like a soul-calling spell from a past life, echoing in my ears. Had I really come back? Back to the senior year mock exam, the turning point that would determine the fate of an entire life. Don't think you can do whatever you want just because you're a good student. Mock exams are the best time to see if you're a horse or a mule. The invigilator bent down, picking up the pen I had dropped with his chalk-dusted hands. He gently placed the pen on my Chinese literature exam paper, then turned and leisurely walked back to the podium. I stared at the exam questions before me. The 4 characters, the death of red hair, hit me like a physical blow, a searing pain. My mind was a jumbled mess. Memories of humiliation, despair, and pain from my previous life flooded me like an uncontrolled torrent, swallowing me whole. I couldn't write a single word. Just then, I felt a gaze fixed intently on me. I looked up, meeting the backward glance of Tong Wanqing, the girl sitting at the desk in front of me. The moment our eyes met, I clearly saw in her eyes, praised by fans as clear as a fawn's, a naked, undisguised glint of provocation. If I remembered correctly, it was from this very mock exam in my previous life that Tong Wanqing skyrocketed to fame. From an average student in the class, she rocketed to 2nd place in the entire grade. She was only 1 point behind me, the consistent top scorer year after year. From then on, her image as a beautiful, intelligent, and well-rounded academic was firmly established. I also remembered later how our university entrance exam papers were so identical they looked like photocopies. A chilling thought snaked around my heart like a venomous serpent. Perhaps, from this very moment, I had stepped 1 foot into the trap she had meticulously set. Thinking of this, my whole body turned cold. But a smile spread across my face. I raised my hand. "Teacher, I'm done. I'd like to hand in my paper." Another invigilator, wearing gold-rimmed glasses, approached. He glanced at my almost blank paper, his face instantly darkening. "There's not a single word in your essay, and your answer sheet is empty. What are you handing in?" His voice was very soft, but in a room so quiet you could hear a pin drop, it was enough to make everyone prick up their ears. All eyes, with a rustle, turned towards me. "Milan, don't forget, your direct admission slot isn't confirmed yet. You still have to take the university entrance exam." I looked directly into his eyes, speaking each word, each sentence, clearly and distinctly. "Teacher, I'm not planning to take the university entrance exam anymore." "What did you say?" The entire exam room immediately exploded like a bomb. In my previous life, it was because I took the university entrance exam that I turned myself into the most pathetic laughingstock. Cheating on the university entrance exam. That accusation, like a branding iron, seared itself into my life. My results were cancelled, and I was banned from taking exams for life. I cried and screamed, posting everywhere online, explaining repeatedly that I hadn't cheated. I took photos of all my awards and certificates from childhood, piled higher than myself, releasing every piece of evidence that could prove my achievements. But it was useless. The moment the exam investigation team announced their results, I was nailed to the pillar of shame. My university entrance exam paper was identical, down to every punctuation mark, to that of Tong Wanqing, the academic hotshot with millions of fans online. And she had submitted her paper a full 29 minutes earlier than I did. The evidence was undeniable. I had 100 mouths and still couldn't argue. The internet troll's spit was enough to drown me. I've seen a lot of online abuse, but I've never seen anyone make themselves such a target. And showing off awards? Pretty good Photoshop. Daring to cheat in the university entrance exam, what kind of scum will this person be in society? Suggest throwing them straight into jail for repentance. If they're not honest in the university entrance exam, then who knows, maybe everything from childhood has been plagiarism and cheating. I'm a candidate this year, we don't need your apology. Anyone who breaks the fairness of the exam, even death isn't enough to appease people. Better go find a rope and deal with it yourself. When the online abuse reached its peak, Jiang Yu, my secret boyfriend of a year, who had promised to go public after graduation, went live with Tong Wanqing. On screen, he had his arm around Tong Wanqing, smiling dotingly. They not only went public with their relationship but also solemnly confirmed that I was the cheater. In Jiang Yu's mouth, I became a delinquent girl who smoked, drank, and neglected her studies. It would be a miracle if I even got into university, let alone became a top scorer. Both of them cried as they recounted stories, calling on all universities to blacklist me. They even cruelly suggested that my relatives, up to 3 generations, should also be banned from taking university exams. Even when my principal and some teachers spoke up as witnesses, they were dragged into the public storm, falsely accused of taking bribes from my family to cover up and falsify evidence. That livestream completely plunged me into hell. I was finished. At first, I still thought, at most, I would just repeat 3 years, wait for the exam ban to expire, and then come back to reclaim justice. I'd use an undeniable top scorer title to slap them all in the face. But then, I became infamous everywhere, a sewer rat everyone wanted to stomp on. Every university exam season, my photos would be dug up, becoming a negative example for the whole country to learn from. Forget about restudying, even working as a server, just hearing my name, bosses would panic as if they'd seen a ghost and kick me out. Years of cyberbullying and isolation led to severe depression and mental disorders. After my mother found out about everything, her already frail body couldn't withstand the shock, and she took her last breath during an asthma attack. My father, wanting to clear my name, ran around everywhere, sold off all our assets, and finally died in a strange car accident on a rainy night. The driver who caused the accident has still not been found. On the day Tong Wanqing held a lavish graduation ceremony after getting her master's degree from Tsinghua Peking University, it was live-streamed nationwide. I watched her happily leaning on Jiang Yu on the screen, and I couldn't bear it anymore. I swallowed an entire bottle of sleeping pills. Until the very last moment as my consciousness faded, I still couldn't understand why. Why was my exam paper identical to Tong Wanqing's after all? If heaven gave me another chance to live, I would definitely uncover this truth with my own hands. I've decided, no more university entrance exams. Teacher, can I hand in my paper now? My voice was calm as still water, yet it caused the exam room to erupt as if bombed. Did I hear that right? Didn't the head teacher always talk about Milan like she was this year's top scorer candidate? Now she's saying she's not taking the exam? What's so great about being a good student? Such a weak mentality, just hides like a turtle when things get tough. I think she's just a pretty face, I never saw her work hard. Maybe her scores were just luck, not real ability. The whispers around me buzzed incessantly like flies. Everyone, silence. The invigilator roared like thunder, and the exam room instantly fell silent. He strode over, his hands like iron clamps pressing down on my shoulders, forcing me back into my seat. Milan. What do you think the university entrance exam is? A children's game? You can take it if you want, and quit if you don't. He pointed to the clock on the wall, his voice stern, allowing no room for argument. There's still an hour left. Even if you don't do anything, you have to sit here until the exam ends. I didn't struggle anymore. I looked up, towards the front, Tong Wanqing's seat. She was biting her pen, pretending to be in deep thought. I had to admit, she was pretty. Her girl-next-door face was cute, not threatening, easy to gain favor. Since birth, her incredibly shrewd mother had created a personal social media account for her, documenting every moment of her growth. She had millions of followers, affectionately called National Daughter by netizens. Since Jiang Yu frequently filmed videos with her, the number of fan couples also skyrocketed. At that time, I argued with Jiang Yu countless times about this. Jiang Yu always coaxed me, saying they were just creating buzz to increase their popularity, and the more fans they had, the smoother their acting career would be later. He even promised that after graduation, they would go public with our relationship. What was the result? What I received was a betrayal that pierced my heart. I bit my lip, tasting the metallic tang of blood in my mouth, before slowly releasing it. Tong Wanqing seemed to sense my burning gaze, occasionally turning to glance at me. It wasn't until the invigilator walked past her, gently tapping her desk as a reminder, that she reluctantly returned to her paper. In my previous life, in the university entrance exam, she and I were indeed in the same room, but there was still one person between us. The university entrance exam was so strict, with 2 invigilators, 360-degree surveillance cameras with no blind spots, and inspectors walking around outside. How did she manage to copy my paper? If it were just multiple-choice questions, it would be understandable, but even the Chinese essay and English composition were identical down to every punctuation mark. That was completely illogical. My eyes fell on the exam paper on the desk again. Perhaps I need to change my way of thinking. The bell signaling the end of the exam rang. My pen tip also gently stopped right at the last punctuation mark of my essay. When the invigilator came to collect the papers, seeing my paper full of writing, his expression finally softened somewhat, and he said nothing more. In the subsequent exams, I put away all my emotions, focused intently, and dedicated myself entirely to answering the questions. The results of the mock exam were announced 2 days later. I couldn't care less about my own score. But Tong Wanqing's score was like a fishbone stuck in my throat, so choking it was hard to breathe. The day before the results were announced, my head teacher, Ms. Qin, called me to her office. As soon as she saw me, she slapped a stack of exam papers onto the table. Milan, you truly are my best student." Her voice was unclear whether it was praise or sarcasm. "Intentionally getting everything wrong to score a 0? What are you trying to prove? Your level of control, perhaps?" "That's right." I had filled in all the questions, but each answer cleverly avoided the correct option. This precise score control, each subject perfectly 0, not a single point more or less. "You truly are the top scorer prospect I chose." Ms. Qin was so angry she laughed, pointing at my nose, wanting to scold me but unable to. She was a key teacher at our school, having led senior classes for over 20 years. Normally, she had the highest expectations of me, always saying, "If you win the top scorer title, my life will not have been in vain." I remembered in my previous life, because of my troubles, she worried so much that her heart condition relapsed, almost fatally. My nose stung, and my eyes were red-rimmed. I quickly lowered my head. Seeing my silence, Ms. Qin finally softened, her voice gentle. "Milan, tell me honestly, why did you do this?" I clenched my fists, my nails digging deep into my palms until they drew blood. It took a long time before I heard my own voice, dry and faint. "Teacher, can you tell me, what score did Tong Wanqing get?" "MS." Qin paused slightly, her eyes showing a hint of complexity, but she still answered. "Wanqing got a perfect score. All 6 subjects, perfect scores." Boom. Ms. Qin's words were like a clap of thunder, exploding in my head. The layers of resilience and courage I had painstakingly built up since my rebirth completely collapsed in that instant. How could it be? How could it be a perfect score? Could it be, even if I had been reborn, the outcome still couldn't be changed? No. I don't believe it. Like a madwoman, disregarding Miss Jean's attempts to stop me, I rushed to her desk, frantically flipping through the mountain of exam papers. The moment I saw Tong Wanqing's paper, all strength drained from my body, and I stumbled back a step, almost losing my footing. On her exam paper, all the solution steps were identical to the incorrect steps I had intentionally written. Even the symbols I had drawn myself in the corner of the exam paper, symbols only I understood, appeared exactly on her paper. The only difference was, her final answers were the correct ones. What exactly is going on? How did she use my incorrect process to get the correct results? Tong Wanqing's progress recently has been truly astonishing. I heard her mother spent a large sum of money to hire several tutors from Tsinghua and Peking University for one-on-one lessons. Miss Jean thought I was dejected and stood by my side to comfort me. But I didn't hear a single word of what she said next. My mind was a chaotic mess, crumpled like a piece of paper. I don't remember how I left the office. I only knew that when I returned to class, the news of Tong Wanqing's perfect score in the mock exam, an unprecedented event in the school's history, had spread like wildfire throughout the entire school. In the classroom, Tong Wanqing was surrounded by a group of friends like a celebrity. She shyly linked arms with Jiang Yu, her expression a perfect blend of surprise and humility. "Wanqing, you're so beautiful and smart, how are we supposed to live? I'm so jealous." A friend who always clung to Tong Wanqing saw me walk in and immediately gave me a long, disdainful look. Exactly. Our Wanqing won first place by her own efforts, unlike some people who were inflated to the heavens before the exam even started, talking about being the future top scorer. And what was the result? Got a big fat goose egg in the mock exam, it's so funny. The bell for class rang. I ignored the piercing taunts, walked past them expressionlessly, and returned to my seat. This class was math. As soon as the teacher walked in, I raised my hand. "Teacher, I heard Tong Wanqing got a perfect score in math this time. How about we ask her to come to the board and explain the problems to the whole class?" The teacher seemed very interested in the suggestion. He smiled brightly and turned to look at Tong Wanqing. Tong Wanqing didn't answer immediately. She instinctively turned to look at Jiang Yu, who was sitting behind me, her eyes full of pleading. "Milan, haven't you had enough? Even if you're jealous that Tong Wanqing got a perfect score, you shouldn't cause trouble in class and embarrass her like that." Jiang Yu immediately stood up, like a hero protecting a beautiful woman, righteously reprimanding me. Seeing his eagerness to defend Tong Wanqing, my heart suddenly became clearer than ever. He definitely knew something. I lowered my head and let out a soft, mocking chuckle. The teacher's analysis leans towards teaching methods. But the way an academic thinks can inspire ordinary students like us. What's wrong? Can Tong Wanqing get a perfect score but not explain the problems? I looked up, my gaze sharp as a knife, directed straight at her. Or is it? Your perfect score, in fact, copied from someone else, so you fundamentally don't understand anything? You. Tong Wanqing's face instantly flushed crimson from my provocation. She sprang out of her seat. If Milan wants to hear my solution so much, then I won't be modest, I'll explain it to everyone. She gave Jiang Yu a reassuring glance, then took a deep breath and walked confidently to the podium. She picked up the chalk and began to fluently explain the problems, starting from the first multiple-choice question. I bit my fingers tightly, my heart growing heavier with every word I heard. Her way of solving the problems was astonishingly similar to mine. Especially the last question, the most difficult problem on the exam. According to common knowledge, the popular solution involved using grouped series. But in my previous life, because I had self-studied advanced algebra, I used the classical combinatorial probability method, a shorter solution but completely outside the curriculum. Could it be? Tong Wanqing had also, like me, self-studied university-level knowledge beforehand? The bell for the end of class rang, and Tong Wanqing's explanation also concluded. The whole class applauded thunderously, and the math teacher was beaming, praising her profusely, calling her a formidable talent. As for me, I felt as if my soul had been sucked out, and I ran distractedly straight to the rooftop. The cold wind lashed at my face, and I couldn't hold back anymore. I sank to the ground and sobbed. "Do you have the nerve to cry?" A sharp voice sounded from behind. I turned around and saw Jiang Yu, his face contorted with anger. "Didn't you just want to embarrass Tong Wanqing in class?" "Milan, why didn't I realize before how malicious you are? I truly regret ever dating you." I wiped away my tears and let out a soft, sarcastic laugh. "If you regret it, then let's just break up." All hope was lost with this man. Even speaking another word felt dirty. "Are you pouting again? How many times have I told you, Tong Wanqing and I are just pretending to be a couple for popularity? Can't you be understanding?" Seeing that I really wanted to break up, his voice softened considerably, even tinged with pleading. "Now, go back to class and apologize properly to Tong Wanqing in front of everyone. I can pretend today never happened and not break up with you." "Jiang Yu, I'm not joking with you." I stood up, looking at him calmly. "I'm not planning to take the university entrance exam anymore. Tomorrow, I'm going to submit my withdrawal application." Jiang Yu froze, then as if he had heard the most ridiculous joke in the world, he burst out laughing. "Didn't you always say you wanted to be the top scorer, wanted to win a scholarship to cure your mother's illness?" He stepped closer, his eyes full of contempt sweeping from my head to my toes. "No university exam, so what about your mother? Relying on your father who works as a screw turner in a factory? By the time he saves enough money for your mother's surgery, her grave will probably be covered in green grass." I looked at his arrogant and smug face and also burst out laughing. "Then, you don't need to worry about it. Jiang, you didn't know. I, Milan, was a genuine rich kid, the daughter of a machinery factory owner. My father, more than 10 years ago, indeed worked as a screw turner in an electronics factory. But he seized the wave of economic boom in the South, and thanks to his daring and quick wit, he earned his first capital. After that, my father used that money to open his own factory. As of now, my family's business has become a processing enterprise for a series of major international brands, leading the entire supply chain. My father's assets are at least over 100 million. No university exam, fine. At most, I'll go home and inherit the family fortune. Besides, I really wanted to see. If I don't take the university entrance exam anymore, can Tong Wanqing still casually and gloriously win the top scorer title like in my previous life? I explained everything clearly to Ms. Jean. I told her I wasn't planning to take the university entrance exam anymore. She looked at me, her eyes filled with a "are you kidding me" expression. "I know your family's situation. If you feel too much pressure, I can help you." With that, she rummaged through her old, well-worn handbag, pulled out a bank card, and gently pushed it towards me. "There's 50,000 in here. Consider it a loan from me. Later, when you get into university and have a future, you can slowly pay me back." I shook my head, pushing the card back. "Teacher, my family isn't short on money. I'm giving up the university exam, to save myself." Ms. Jean tried to persuade me for an entire class period. But my decision was made, unyielding. Finally, she just sighed deeply. "If you change your mind later and want to restudy, you must find me first." I forced a smile uglier than when I cried. "Teacher, then I won't be able to give the speech at the university entrance exam pep rally. Should you consider?" "No need to change." Ms. Jean interrupted me. "I've read your speech. It's very well written, very sincere. It's too late to change speakers now anyway. Just consider that speech the most beautiful ending to your student days." Seeing me still standing there dazed, she gently pushed my shoulder. "Go, everyone's probably gathering in the auditorium already." I arrived at the auditorium just as the principal finished speaking, and it was my turn, the representative of the senior class, to give a speech. I held the microphone, took a deep breath, and took out the draft I had prepared earlier. After an inspiring and emotional speech, sparse applause echoed from below. I paused for a moment, looking down at the familiar and unfamiliar faces below, and slowly began to speak. I apologize to everyone. I can't continue this journey with you. I've decided. I won't be taking this year's university entrance exam. Right here, I wish all of you a smooth exam, brilliant results, and a bright future. As soon as I finished, Tong Wanqing suddenly rushed from her seat onto the stage, snatching the microphone from my hand. Milan, what right do you have to not take the university entrance exam? There are over 2,000 students in the senior class, and you're the only one dropping out, aren't you ashamed? A timely tear rolled down her cheek, both indignant and heartbroken. We're classmates after all, I can't just stand by and watch you destroy your future. She turned towards the audience below, her voice choked. I know your mother is sick and needs money. I can help you pay for your aunt's treatment. As long as you agree to continue taking the university entrance exam, I can even intentionally get a few questions wrong and give you the top scorer title. Her sincere words immediately ignited a wave of public opinion from the audience. Exactly, to say you're not taking it now, aren't all those years of studying wasted? What's the point of hoping Milan will be the top scorer? Better to hope for Tong Wanqing. Ms. Qing cared for her so much and was betrayed, truly ungrateful. Right. Reserve the direct admission slot and gifted student exam resources for Tong Wanqing. Giving them to this kind of person is truly a waste. Wanqing is truly beautiful and kind. She knows she can win the top scorer title, yet she's willing to give it to her friend. If Milan doesn't accept, she's truly ungracious. I listened to all those words and only found them amusing. I forcefully pushed her hand away, shaking off Tong Wanqing's tight grip on me. I don't need your help, and my family isn't in any financial difficulty. In a few days, I'll start working at the factory. I wish you an early realization of your dream, becoming the top scorer in one fell swoop. With that, I picked up my backpack from the floor, and under the stunned gaze of the principal and teachers, I strode out of the auditorium without looking back. Outside the school gate, a black Maybach was already parked. Uncle Qin, the driver, immediately got out when he saw me, politely opening the door for me. Miss, the general manager and madam's flight was delayed a bit, we can still make it to the airport now. I clutched the fresh bouquet of carnations and rushed to the airport. My heart was in turmoil. 2 weeks ago, my father took my mother to City A to see a leading specialist. I still didn't know the exact condition of my mother's illness. The airport loudspeaker announced that the flight had just landed, and very quickly, I saw my parents walking out of the gate, hand in hand. My father happily took the bouquet from my hand. I was about to rush into my mother's arms to ask about her, but she pushed me away. As soon as I got off the plane, I received a call from your friend, Tong Wanqing, crying and saying you wanted to quit the university entrance exam and even planned to go work screwing bolts in a factory. Milan, what exactly is going on? My mother's face was full of anger and disappointment. I bit my lip tightly. All the pent-up humiliation from my previous life, seeing my mother, I couldn't hold it back anymore. Tears poured out with a whoosh, like a broken string of pearls, flowing non-stop. Seeing me cry, my mother became flustered and panicked. Oh my goodness, my child, I only said one thing and you're already feeling wronged? If you don't want to take the exam, then don't, it's a small matter. I won't ask anymore, okay? Hearing those clumsy but loving words of comfort, my tears fell even more. What are you crying for? My father suddenly spoke, his voice loud and assertive. My daughter, Milan, studies until 1 to 2 a.m. every night, it breaks my heart to see it. It's good that she's not taking the exam anymore. My father pulled me into his arms, using his rough hands to wipe away my tears. My daughter, Mijing was daughter, even if she were illiterate, I wouldn't allow anyone to look down on her. Hearing that, I let out a pit of laughter. My father finished speaking, and I truly laughed. Seeing me laugh, my parents finally breathed a sigh of relief. On the way home, my father told me about my mother's illness. Thyroid cancer, the type with the highest cure rate. As long as she had surgery and received proper treatment, the 5-year survival rate was over 90%. Moreover, my mother's condition was discovered early, so she could live a normal life after treatment. Hearing that, my heart finally settled down. Back home, the three of us had our first reunion meal since my rebirth. After dinner, my mother gently spoke. "Daughter, tell me honestly, were you bullied at school? Did anyone pick on you? Tell me, and I'll go get justice for you." I regained my composure and told my parents everything about both my lives, without hiding anything. After hearing it, my mother hugged me tightly, sobbing. "My daughter, you've suffered so much." My father, meanwhile, was so enraged that he squeezed the lit cigarette in his hand, stubbing it out in the ashtray, his eyes bloodshot. "Those bastards. Back when I was playing dirty tricks, they weren't even out of their mother's wombs yet. How dare they touch my daughter? I'll make them die without a gasp." My father slapped his chest, making a firm promise. "My dear daughter, you've worked hard studying all this time. For the next few months, just stay home and rest, do whatever you want. The rest, I'll take care of it. If I can't dig out all their secrets, then I'm not called me anymore." After thorough discussion with my family, the next day, I officially submitted my withdrawal application to the school. As soon as I finished the procedure and walked out of the principal's office, right in the hallway, I ran into Jiang Yu. "Xiaolan, I have good news for you. I just got accepted into the film academy through special admission. There are so many pretty girls there, if you keep pouting at me, I'll really leave you. By then, it'll be too late to cry." Jiang Yu maintained his arrogant attitude, as if he were bestowing a favor upon me. I didn't bother to react, silently walking past him. Perhaps feeling awkward, he called out softly after me. "I've already told Tong Wanqing that we won't be posting any more couple hints for a while. Don't be mad anymore, okay? Xiaolan, let's review together and take the exam in City A, okay?" This kind of flip-flopping only made me more certain he and Tong Wanqing were definitely in cahoots. I didn't look back, quickening my pace as I left the school. From that day on, I officially relaxed. Every day, I slept until I woke up naturally, ate my fill, then lazily sprawled on the sofa, binge-watching all the anime and dramas I had missed. Finally, my mother couldn't take it anymore. She dragged me out of bed with one hand. "Look at you. You're lying around all day like a boneless lazy snake. Your father is so busy because of your situation, and you're just eating and sleeping, living like a parasite. Didn't you say you wanted to work at the factory? Go today for your mother." And so, I was kicked straight into my family's factory by my mother. In the hot workshop, I changed into a blue protective suit and put on a hard hat, officially becoming a bona fide screw-turning worker. Luckily, my mind was still agile, and I learned everything quickly. After just one day, I was already proficient in the work. My father came by to check, and seeing me doing everything correctly, he was very happy and even gave me a raise, 200 yuan a day. And so, I kept turning screws for a whole week. Every day, I was so tired I couldn't lift my arms, feeling like my hands weren't even my own anymore. I thought life would continue steadily like this, but who knew? Ms. Jean came directly to the factory. "Working and studying, it must be tiring, right?" She looked at the beads of sweat on my forehead, speaking with concern. My eyes were dark-rimmed like a panda's from binge-watching last night, and I smiled shyly. "Ms. Jean, why are you here without notice? The beef noodles in our factory canteen are delicious, let me treat you to a meal." Ms. Jean smiled and waved her hand. "No need for food, I came today because of your matter." "My matter?" She pulled me to a nearby resting chair, sat down, and spoke with a troubled expression. "I still feel that you giving up the university entrance exam is truly a great pity. I heard that there's a private school in City F that's recruiting students for restudy, students with potential like you. So I came to ask for your opinion. You don't need to be first there. As long as your university entrance exam score reaches 700, the school will immediately reward you with 200,000 yuan. For me, scoring 700 points was as easy as pie. 200,000 yuan was like money falling from the sky. Although I wasn't short on money, hearing it still made me feel a little tempted. But then I thought, transfer schools? Restudy? Wasn't that still asking me to take the university entrance exam? My heart suddenly sank, and I immediately became vigilant. Teacher, the results of the second mock exam are out, right? How did everyone do? Generally, it's good. The average is higher than the first time. It's just Tong Wanqing hasn't been very stable lately. From a perfect score in the first exam, she dropped to 480 points this time. As soon as she finished speaking, a warning bell immediately rang in my head. I dropped out of the game, and her performance immediately plummeted? Could it be that was her real ability? Ever since that perfect score, she's been under a lot of pressure. Her mother said she's been having trouble sleeping, losing her appetite, and her mental state is very poor. The school is also worried about something happening, so they've given her leave to rest at home. No way. Yesterday, I saw her mother post a video on TikTok. In the video, Tong Wanqing had a rosy complexion, happily sharing what she called her exclusive study tips with netizens, looking extremely energetic, completely unlike someone with unstable mental state. My intuition told me there was definitely something wrong here. Moreover, Ms. Qin was the head teacher of the senior class, the graduating class, and it wasn't the weekend today, so why would she suddenly leave her school duties and come all the way here to find me? Could it be she was being used? Teacher, I'll tell you the truth. I looked into Ms. Qin's worried but sincere eyes and decided to tell her everything. Actually, my family isn't poor at all. This factory where I'm screwing bolts, it's my family's factory. My father is the boss here. Ms. Qin stood there dumbfounded, her face full of "What are you talking about?" Just then, the factory manager, Uncle Tang, walked by carrying a plate of cut watermelon. Seeing me, he respectfully called out, "Miss, it's hot, have some watermelon to cool down." Ms. Qin seemed to wake up from a dream, looking from me to Uncle Tang, her expression indescribable. This is truly a huge misunderstanding, I thought. I shrugged, waving my hand to cut through her awkwardness. Ms. Qin, can you honestly tell me, where did you hear about that private school admission information? Ms. Qin glanced at the roaring production line outside the window, a shy smile touching her lips. That was Jiang Yu who told me. She continued, he said he had an argument with you and was too embarrassed to come directly, so he asked for my help. I knew you two were in love and was afraid you'd be upset if you heard it was his suggestion, so I didn't say anything at first. You're not angry with me, are you? I shook my head, my smile radiant. Of course not. Good. Jiang Yu, Tong Wanqing. These two just wouldn't leave me alone. They were determined to drag me back to the university entrance exam. If there wasn't something shady going on behind the scenes, I'd write their names backward. After Ms. Qin left, I sat alone in the office, pondering for a long time. Those two were closing in, step by step, I couldn't avoid them anymore. In that case, instead of being pushed into a corner, why not take the initiative? I hadn't even finished planning the specifics when my father burst into the room like a storm, exhilarated. Daughter, I know what's happening. With just over a month left until the university entrance exam, the final, and most crucial, mock exam was also approaching. I called Ms. Qin and told her I agreed to transfer to the private school she mentioned. She was visibly delighted, immediately helped me make contact, and the transfer procedures were quickly completed. My first day at the new school was also the day of the third mock exam. I held the exam paper in my hand, a cold smile playing on my lips. Heaven first makes those it wants to destroy arrogant. A few days later, the results were announced. As expected, I got a perfect score. At the same time, at my old school, Tong Wanqing once again achieved a perfect score, topping the entire grades rankings. Just then, Jiang Yu uploaded a video to social media, officially announcing his relationship with Tong Wanqing. I looked at my phone, saying nothing, and immediately pulled out my wallet to spend 5,000 yuan on advertising for them. After all, the more lively this play, the more interesting it would be. Thanks to my contribution, hashtags like National Daughter Reveals Romance, Academic Couple, and Golden Boy and Jade Girl quickly climbed to the top of the hot searches. Boo-hoo-hoo, the couple I've shipped for years is finally real. My youth is complete. Finally, the day of bright moonlight has come. My Jiang Xiaoyu is finally recognized, no more secretly glancing at Tong Wanqing on shows. National Daughter is my daughter, I watched her grow up. She got perfect scores in 3 exams, I'm crying like a proud old mother. This is just the beginning. I believe our Tong Wanqing will definitely be the top scorer in this year's university entrance exam. Family, let's wait for her to bring home the greatest glory. I looked at the fervent comments on the screen and couldn't stop smiling. It wasn't until the flight attendant gently reminded me to fasten my seatbelt that I reluctantly turned off my phone. In the first-class cabin, my mother tightly held my father's hand, her face full of worry. "Old me, are you sure the person you found is reliable? Don't let it be a scammer." My father patted my mother's hand, his eyes firm. "For our daughter, even if it's a scammer, we have to try." Time flew by, and a month later, I returned to City S. It was just in time for the university entrance exam. Just like in my previous life, I was assigned to the same exam room as Tong Wanqing. Before the exam, she intentionally walked up to me, looking down from above, her face full of confidence, as if she were looking at a clown. "You still haven't realized what's going on, and you even dared to come take the university entrance exam. Milan, I think you've studied yourself into stupidity. What's the use of being a good student? This year's top scorer will definitely be me. And you only deserve to be a stepping stone for me." Jiang Yu approached, gently kissed her forehead, then turned to look at me with a sneer. "Milan, finally I don't have to pretend anymore with your bland face. Honestly, I feel sick spending another second with you. Don't you look in the mirror? I'm about to become a celebrity, how could I be interested in a poor bookworm like you, who only knows how to study all day?" They thought these words could make me crumble. But my heart was completely calm, even finding it utterly amusing. For this university entrance exam, I will give my all. Tong Wanqing, let's wait and see who the top scorer will ultimately be. Sitting in the exam room, looking at the familiar exam paper in front of me, I felt like I was retaking an exam I had already completed in my previous life. The answers seemed to be etched into my mind. Time passed with the rustling sound of pens gliding across paper. I didn't stop for a second. Until I finished the last word, there was still half an hour left before the time was up. I put down my pen, checked it carefully, then raised my hand to hand in my paper early. 3 days later, the bell signaling the end of the last subject rang. My whole body felt as if a heavy burden had been lifted, lighter than ever before. Stepping out of the exam room, I saw my parents waiting at the school gate. My mother was wearing a specially tailored qipao today, symbolizing victory at the start. I ran over with a bright smile and hugged them. My father's eyes were glistening. "It's good that the exam is over. I'm happy now that it's over. Whatever the result, I prepared a backup plan for you. At most, we'll go study abroad, I'll sell the factory, and our whole family will emigrate." "What are you saying? Our daughter will definitely be the top scorer this year." My mother confidently patted my father's shoulder. I shyly buried my head in my mother's arms, when suddenly a shrill, angry scream echoed from behind. "Milan! What did you do to me?" I turned around and saw Tong Wanqing, her face contorted with fury, lunging towards me, raising her hand to slap me. I quickly grabbed her wrist and pushed it away forcefully. "What could I have done to you? I merely seriously participated in an exam." "Impossible. You definitely played some trick on me. I'm the best student in the school, I've studied everything. Why is my mind completely blank now? I can't remember anything at all. Tong Wanqing's eyes were dull, she mumbled to herself, then suddenly pointed directly at me, her gaze filled with malevolence. It must be you. Milan, you despicable wretch. You would stop at nothing to snatch my top scorer position. I'll report you. You stole my achievements. Milan, just you wait, you'll be utterly disgraced. Looking at her almost insane appearance, I found it incredibly amusing. Then I'd also like to ask you, what did you do to me? Tong Wanqing's eyes widened as if they would burst. She looked at me in a panic, her lips trembling. You know everything? That evening, as my father was having dinner with an important client, he inadvertently brought up my situation. Coincidentally, that client had just returned from the Tibetan plateau. He said there was an enlightened master there, with profound spiritual powers, who might be able to help me. And so, after the third mock exam, when Tong Wanqing was completely off guard, my whole family immediately flew to Lhasa overnight. On the second day in Tibet, through the client's introduction, we went to an ancient monastery and met the legendary master, Rinpoche. He wore a red kasaya, his face benevolent. He circled me a few times, then placed his hands on the crown of my head, closed his eyes, and began chanting scriptures I didn't understand. Immediately, my head felt like it would explode. It felt like a rusty knife was piercing my brain and twisting around, so painful that I clutched my head and rolled on the stone floor, repeatedly banging my forehead against the hard, cold ground. Blood flowed from my forehead, quickly staining the stone beneath me red. My mother was so frightened she could only sob, and my father thudded to his knees, repeatedly kowtowing before the master. Master! Please save my daughter. I beg you. Ba. Rinpoche gently chanted a Buddha's name, then helped my father up. This young girl has been subjected to a dark spell. With that, he placed his hands on the crown of my head again. This time, the pain in my head gradually disappeared, replaced by a warm current. The warm energy spread throughout my limbs, then converged at the crown of my head. Just then, my father shouted loudly. What is that? My daughter's head has a needle? My mother also saw it, she covered her mouth, almost fainting on the spot. Rinpoche calmly spoke, according to my observation, this silver needle has been steeped in corpse oil for 49 days to be refined. Among all things, only twins can have spiritual resonance. If this humble monk is not mistaken, there is an identical needle in the body of another young girl. The one who cast the spell used this method to steal your daughter's wisdom and fate. If left for too long, her spiritual consciousness will be eroded little by little, and eventually, she will become the puppet of the other person. I immediately recalled, in the second semester of 11th grade, I suddenly fainted during a physical education class. After waking up, my head ached continuously for several days. Thinking back carefully, it was probably then that Tong Wanqing secretly implanted this malicious needle in my head. Master, my daughter, will she be okay? Please heal her, however much money you need, we will provide. Rest assured. This humble monk will enter solitary retreat for 1 month, to transcend the resentful spirit attached to the silver needle for the young girl. During that time, she must temporarily stay at the monastery. When this humble monk emerges from retreat, it will also be the time when this tribulation is resolved. And so, I stayed in that monastery, completely isolated from the outside world, for an entire month. Every day, besides eating and sleeping, I meditated and chanted scriptures with the monks. 30 days later, Rinpoche safely emerged from retreat. I also managed to return to City S just in time to participate in the university entrance exam. The people around the exam room were quickly drawn by our shouts, gathering into a dense circle. Tong Wanqing, like a madwoman, was still clutching my arm, screaming at me to return her achievements. Suddenly, a terrified scream erupted from the crowd. Blood began to seep from Tong Wanqing's eyes, nose, ears, and mouth. What's going on? What did you do to her? Her face was covered in blood, looking exactly like a demon that had just climbed out of hell. I looked at her, my eyes cold. What could I have done? It's all because of the evil you sowed, and now you're reaping the consequences. Sow the wind, reap the whirlwind. Harming others will eventually come at a price. As soon as I finished speaking, I turned and left, getting into our family car amidst the horrified and suspicious gazes of the crowd. Behind me, Jiang Yu was screaming curses, but I didn't bother to turn back, only calmly saying, "Uncle Chin, drive." After the exam ended, my whole family went to City A for my mother's surgery. The operation was incredibly successful. After returning to City S, I received a call from Ms. Chin. "Milan, don't pay attention to those baseless rumors online. I've reported it to the principal, the school will definitely," I cut her off. "Teacher, thank you. But, there's no need. Because, just a moment ago, the university entrance exam results had been announced. 748 points. Only 2 points short of a perfect score. I was this year's provincial top scorer. As for Tong Wanqing, because she submitted blank papers for all subjects, her total score was 0. She went insane. On the very day the exam results were announced, she jumped from her balcony. I heard that although she was rescued, her spirit was completely shattered. She kept mumbling words like system, mission failed, delete, and so on. And Jiang Yu, because his image was intertwined with Tong Wanqing, and he had slandered me in a livestream, became the target of nationwide social media outrage overnight. All his endorsement contracts were cancelled, he was expelled from the film academy, and his management company demanded massive contract compensation. His life was also over. Later, my father had someone investigate and finally uncovered the whole truth behind the story. It turned out that a year ago, Tong Wanqing had accidentally activated something called the Academic Overlord, World's Top Scorer system. This system could help her steal the intelligence and luck of the person with the strongest destiny within a 10-kilometer radius. And that silver needle was the medium provided by the system. As long as I participated in the exam, the system would automatically transmit my thoughts and answers to Tong Wanqing. However, this system had a limitation, it only copied, it couldn't create. Therefore, when I intentionally made mistakes in the mock exams, the system could only accurately copy those incorrect steps. As for Tong Wanqing, because she had to maintain the image of a perfect score student, she was forced to recalculate the final answers herself to correct them. That's why her exam papers showed such a peculiar phenomenon. The process was completely wrong, but the answers were correct. And in the actual university entrance exam, thanks to Rinpoche's spiritual power, the dark magical link between me and her was completely severed. She lost her thought connection with me, and naturally, her mind became blank. As for the system, because she failed in her mission, it punished her in the most cruel way, a backlash. Everything finally came to an end. I received admission letters from both Tsinghua and Peking University simultaneously. My parents asked me which school I wanted to choose. I looked out the window, the bright sunlight shining down, and smiled faintly. I didn't want to go anywhere. I tore up the 2 admission letters that so many people longed for. Then, using the capital my father provided, I established my own technology company. I wanted to use my own mind to create a unique and special future, one that belonged only to Milan. After all, being a top scorer is only so much. Right? And now, the question is, if there was a power that allowed you to easily usurp others' success and lives, with the only price being your own self, would you dare to press the button?